Hey, it's Derpino with video number 002.
Hello everyone, welcome. I hope you're all doing well. This will be the first part of the Inktober videos since there are several more parts and I couldn't really fit them all in. So yeah. Warning, since I fell behind very early on in the challenge, I completed the prompts in different order. The video will go in prompt order, but I mentioned the completion order at the bottom. For this challenge, I used Inktober as my primary prompt list and Peachtober as my secondary prompt list. So if I liked the Peachtober prompt, needed help generating an idea, or wanted to challenge myself a little more, then I would include it. For the crystal and tulip prompt, I used Sakura Pigma Micron pens and Crayola super tips. Initially, I was unsure of what to draw, so I just started doodling and the ideas eventually flowed. I came up with 3 concepts that I liked, but for the sake of time, I just chose the simplest one. I also liked this piece. The focus for this piece was warming up and just getting back into the groove of art because I hadn't done art for so long. By the end of this piece, I think you can see how unclean and not confident my lines were. And I could nitpick at this piece all day, but I reminded myself it was just a warm-up. And it's better to note things that I could improve on and go on from there. So the first lesson was when starting something or picking something up again after a while, just be gentle on yourself. I drew with the book flat on the table, so my picture did end up a little warped. So the second lesson here is be mindful of the angle you're drawing at. For the suit and smoke prompt, I used Sakura Pigma Micron pens. I think I'll just refer to them as Micron pens from here on out. So yeah, the focus of this piece was to create fan art and work on storytelling. I did a crossover and ended up with, ta-da, Mafia Crossing. I was supposed to keep it simple, but I went hard with 10 plus characters instead, so it took up a lot of time. Some lessons. So how did I tackle storytelling for this piece? I broke it down into a bunch of questions, like what's the setting? That determined the time period and outfit. Who are the characters? What are their roles? And what background and props can turn it from a bunch of characters in costumes to a scene from a story? That's how I approached it. If you guys have any other suggestions or want to share on how you tackle storytelling, let me know in the comments. I'm probably going to transfer this and do a watercolor version where there will actually be smoke, haha, because you can totally see smoke from the cigarette and Molotov in here. You can, just look harder. I'd also love to do a Yakuza Crossing version with the twins as Kiryu and Nishiki because they are soulmate brothers. And nobody can change my mind. For Vessel, since the image might violate YouTube policy, I didn't share the process on here, but I will be posting it on my Patreon, and I'll post the link to my Patreon once I finish setting it up, which is soon TM. So yes. For Knot in Hand, I used Micron pens and a Sakura Jelly Roll metallic gold pen. The focus for this challenge was hand study and symbolic storytelling. So how did I tackle symbolic storytelling? It was pretty straightforward, there's nothing fancy. I just came at this with a question. I thought about knots and threads and asked myself what are ways that threads bind us in life. In the top panel, it's threads that bind us to look for our other half. In the middle panel, it's threads that bind us to death from the moment that we're born. And in the bottom panel, it's threads that bind us to ourselves because we're stuck with ourselves forever, for eternity. If I could change anything, I would switch the top and middle panel. Some lessons, I don't think I had a very formulaic approach to symbolic storytelling, but in hindsight, it looks like I just chose a central theme and created some juxtaposition. And it's a given. When doing studies, use reference pictures. I used reference pictures from Pixabay and Pexels. For Raven, I used Dr. P.H. Martin's Bombay India ink, the Sakura Jelly Roll pen in white, and a Speedball Dip Pen. The focus for this challenge was using Bombay India ink and Dip Pen for the first time, and focusing on a purple and blue palette. Raven is one of my favorite characters from Teen Titans, and I love pairing her with Beast Boy. I have no idea why I gave her that hand pose like she's Byzantine Jesus. It's a little ironic because she's half demon. This ended up being a disaster piece. I had to salvage it with a background off camera. You'll see it later on. I tried white ink on her hands, but it didn't really work, so I ended up using a white Jelly Roll pen. There were so many lessons learned. In my personal opinion, I think dip pens are a little romanticized. Once again, it's my personal opinion. When using them, it was a pain, but kudos to the people who have the patience and skill to use them as one of their main art tools. You have to clean your nib in between uses or the ink will dry and then it won't flow properly. As the pen name suggests, you have to continuously dip, which interrupted my flow. The dip pen also felt really scratchy on the paper. I don't think my mixed media paper was suited for dip pens, which probably exacerbated my initial experience with ink and the dip pen. It was easier to use a brush with India ink. I also found India ink dries very fast. It was less forgiving than watercolor. But India ink is very vibrant and beautiful and has a glossy finish. I'm not sure if I was using dip pens incorrectly, if it's the type of nib I was using, the paper, a combination of things, or just because it was my first time ever with ink and dip pens, but my overall experience was pretty poopy, and I was left exhausted and unsatisfied with this. The last prompt for this video is Spirit and Fall. The materials I used for this was Dr. P.H. Martin's Bombay India ink, Micron pens, Prisma Col-Erase pencil, the dip pen, and Holbein Acryla gouache. But wait, Derpina, I thought you strongly disliked using dip pens and acrylic ink. Well, about 2 weeks later, I decided to give it another shot to see if I'd like it this time around. Sometimes you just want to give paint another chance. But yeah, my focus was using India ink again and trying to stick to an orange-yellow palette. I also wanted to practice storytelling again and to top it off, work on composition. I don't think I had very good lessons for this piece. One, I don't think India ink and dip pens are my go-to medium, but I will probably try it again and again and again every now and then to see if I change my mind. Two, the colors are still very vibrant and beautiful. I don't remember if I mentioned this earlier, but India ink is glossy compared to watercolor and gouache. I need to see what paper is suited for ink and dip pen. I stuck to mixed media again since I like to keep my Inktober drawings in one note. But yeah, I think for the next Inktober, so this year, Inktober 2022, I will have to figure out the best papers for dip pen before I go in at it again. Alright, that's it for this video, guys. Thanks for watching. I will catch you in Inktober Part 2 in the future. Alright, see you guys. Bye!